I, I welcome you all today to a wonderful talk by Dimitris Klapsis on LEED neighborhood development. I'm going to say a little bit more about that. First, I should tell you that this is a jointly sponsored seminar series brought to you by SPPD's Urban Growth Seminar, as well as the U.S. Center for Sustainable Cities. And my name is Hilda Blanco, and I direct the Center for Sustainable Cities. The seminar series has a fascinating title, which is The Future of Sustainable Cities, Planning, Policy, and Technology. And today we're going to focus on LEED for neighborhood development, smart growth, and new urbanism. And so you will get a great introduction to this very important system that the U.S. Green Buildings Council has developed for the use of professionals as well as cities and so on. It's my great pleasure today to introduce Dimitris Klapsis, who is the principal of STUDIOdnk. He's a licensed architect, but even more important for us, he's an alumnus of USC, the School of Architecture. And Mr. Klapsis has had terrific experience here in this area. You probably know his work if you've been on the Gold Line, because he designed the Del Mar station in Pasadena, which is quite an amazing development there. But he has so many credits, it would take me about 10 or 15 minutes to read all of them. So I'm not going to do that. But the great thing also, and one of the reasons he's here with us, is that he is on the board for the U.S. Green Buildings Council for Los Angeles. And of course, he's been very much involved with developing the neighborhood development LEED certification as well. And he's going to talk to us about that. Also, I'm really very pleased to host Vinaya Barnett, who will be the discussant for Dimitris today. And he probably doesn't need any introduction because he is one of our faculty members. So he teaches here in planning, in the planning department. In particular, he teaches urban design, and he directs the urban design efforts at MOOL and Polosoidis as well. So he's had also an incredible set of professional experiences as well, and very much involved in the new urbanism, and has had many awards as well. But perhaps he can tell us a little bit more about his work later on. And now, without further introduction, here's Dimitris. Thank you.
Hello everyone. It's actually great to be on campus, though I have to admit I needed a map to find my way around. Things have changed, buildings have popped up where they didn't used to be. So it's great to see the campus being a vibrant and ever-changing. We're going to talk a little bit about LEED for neighborhood development. We're going to focus on what was the reason why a rating system such as LEED for neighborhood development was created. And then we'll touch a little bit about the basic principles behind it. We, through the USGBC LA chapter, we actually offer day-long information seminars on the rating system, so to start an understanding also the nuts and bolts of how the rating system works. With that, what is LEED for neighborhood development? Well, it's a system that provides an independent third-party verification that the development's location and design means acceptable high levels of sustainability and responsible development. And these are fancy words, you know, a little bit the USGBC marketing, but what that really means. You all know LEED, but you mostly know LEED through the LEED for new construction rating system or some other rating system that relates specifically to buildings. Buildings, though, it's only a little portion of the solution towards our development as a society to a sustainable way of life. I don't need to tell you about global warming. I don't need to tell you about all these issues that we are facing. The elevator summary of that is that if we keep doing what we are doing, we are in big trouble. There are actually scientific studies out there that say with the same rate that we're going right now, 100 years from now, the Earth will not be recognizable. It's really interesting that there is that series on TV right now, Terra Nova, which actually exactly describes this kind of scenario. It's not that far-fetched. That's the sad part about it. The guys that did that series were actually working with JPL. And these opening sequences actually came in collaboration with the scientists over at JPL to show people what the environment might look like if we keep doing what we're doing. My involvement with LEED for neighborhood development, and at that time it was not LEED for neighborhood development, started at CNU, that's the Congress for New Urbanism, in Miami Beach back in 2002, almost a decade ago. At that time, I was working with Vinayak at Stefanos Polizoidis' office. Exciting time. What we loved about Stefanos is it's a great visionary and thinks way outside the box. So as a professional, we were able to stretch and explore different ideas. In that presentation, we made a comparison between two projects. The first project is a typical sprawl apartment complex up the I-5, towards Santa Clarita. And the second one, it's actually many of you might have seen, is the Del Mar station that both Vinayak and I were part of the team that brought this project to life. So, the sprawl apartment assumed a LEED for new construction silver level. There was absolutely no pedestrians destinations nearby. And, of course, as we know, up there is no public transportation either. From the other hand, the Del Mar station is a TOD project, transit-oriented development. He assumed actually no LEED certification, as it is actually. That building has no LEED certification. It just met the Title 24 energy requirements. That's all we did from the energy perspective. But it's a mixed use. It has multiple pedestrian destinations nearby and has high quality public transportation, not even nearby, it actually runs through the project with a train stop exactly at your front door. After 2 years, so we did the study and we found that after 2 years, the LEED building produced 20% more CO2 emissions than the non-LEED building. And why that? Because the non-LEED building was forcing people to get on the cars and drive everywhere they needed to go. So immediately you start understanding that green buildings are great. It's wonderful that we're pushing the sustainability on the building level. That's exactly what we were supposed to be. That's exactly what our ancestors used to do, but it's not enough to make even a dent to our path and will not help us meet challenges like the 2030 challenge of having carbon neutral buildings. For you that like charts, this is borrowed from criteria. Dwelling units per acre, limited commercial uses. That's the CO2 footprint. That's what comes out of the building, and this is what comes out of transportation. A urban development, 20 DUs per acre. Now, we're not talking about something really dense here, right? 20 DUs, what, 3 stories, maybe? You can get it, and you can have your courtyards, and you can have, lots of open space. Yeah, it's still a very reasonable project as far as scale is concerned. But you have the significant commercial uses. This is the difference. Not only the transportation CO2 footprint is much smaller, but because units tend to be closer to each other, actually insulate one another, so your building by default actually behaves much better from an energy perspective. So quality of life, we're sold. Levittown, white picket fences, green acres. Does anyone know green acres? I'll make you sing the tune. And, the suburban, right? That's the life we were promised. Guess what we got, right? It looks exactly like the pictures. And just in case this was not bad enough for you, that's what you do every day. Wonderful. Where's the quality of life here? There is none of what promised that we're experiencing here. How do we get there? First thing was the GI Bill. When all the GIs came back from World War II, they needed jobs. The economy needed a jolt in order to transition from building tanks and airplanes and bombs to something that makes sense for civilians. So the federal government pushed a program that gave extremely good rates for loans to buy a home, but the home had to be new. Can you build a home in an existing, new home in an existing urban environment? Really hardly to do so. Most buildings are already there. So he pushed all the money, all the development money outside to the suburbs. And just to make sure that this thing worked, we passed the Highway Act. So we spent billions of dollars building also the infrastructure to service these suburban developments. Americans were not about the suburbs. Americans were urbanites. Los Angeles used to have the best transportation system in the world. The combination of the red cars and the yellow cars. The red cars were picking up regional traffic, and then at each major red car station, there was another car, the yellow car, that was going around the neighborhood and was servicing the neighborhood. Excellent system. And Big Oil, the car manufacturers, tire manufacturers, bought up Pacific Electric. They never put a cent on maintaining the system. People got fed up, and at a certain time, they gathered all the cars, they put it in a nice stack, about 6, 7 cars high, and they torched them. So no one could ever use public transportation in Los Angeles. Why sprawl is bad? Air and water pollution are threatening our human health. Transportation budgets right now are larger than your food budget. An average family living in the suburbs, they spend more in driving the car than they spend to eat. Now, there is something wrong with this picture. When we spend more money for a car than for our actual survival. Families are finding fewer choices in housing styles, price ranges, and neighborhoods. So you go to buy a new house, and you look at the development, and it's 2 plans. You might have the choice of a porch or not, and you can paint it 3 different hues of beige. Dark beige, light beige, and maybe beige. That's your choice. I don't call that choice. Also, because you spend an hour and a half to go from downtown up to Santa Clarita, and from Santa Clarita back to downtown another hour and a half, that's 3 hours every day. Where are these hours coming from? Your work day used to be 9 to 5, forget about that. It's, maybe 9 to 7 if you're lucky. If you're an architect, it's 9 to 9. So, or urban planner, you are on the same boat. Where are these 3 hours coming from? From your family life. You don't have time to spend with your family, your kids, your friends. Where is the quality of life here? And if you like numbers is what we drive. In the last 10 years, 25% increase. Time we spend in traffic, 236% increase since 1982. We're not talking back to the Stone Age. We're talking 1982. Money lost in time and fuel, 78 billion in 2000. And you're talking about the budget deficit? There. That's how you can plug the budget deficit and don't tax a single cent. So, there is an idea here that is called smart growth. And LEED is smart growth. Smart growth talks about well-planned development, protects open space, farmland, and revitalizes communities. Keeps housing affordable and provides more transportation choices. It's a better way to build our urban and suburban communities. Smart growth is not against the suburbs. Smart growth is for smart suburbs. Suburbs that are actually, again, a real neighborhood, that you have the ability to stay within your suburb. I love this little cartoon here. It says, okay, now we're going to begin the smart growth part of the plan. You may proceed. That's where we are. We dug our hole, and now we're trying to smart growth ourselves out of that hole. Smart growth actually is based on the Awanini principles. The California's Local Government Commission back in 1991, and our mentor Stefanos was part of that effort, came together. And the question that the California governors were putting is that this is crazy. I cannot maintain a state growing like that. Do you have any ideas? That's the ideas. So, what are the ideas? Preserve open space. Each year, we are losing about 3.2 million acres of open space. Direct development to existing communities. On average, 15% of our cities are considered vacant. 15%. It's crazy. Let's utilize that. Especially in LA, just drive around outside the big areas and look around. It's strip malls after strip malls. What is that? Underdeveloped area. It's opportunity. Mixed land uses. So you provide retail and housing and businesses all together. And we have examples here in LA. Up by the station, that's in Pasadena. Claremont, just in case, I don't want to leave the suburbs without an example. And this crazy example that has housing over retail, it's actually not a fancy European idea. That's Savannah, Georgia, one of the oldest planned cities, one of the most beautiful planned cities in the United States. Back in the 1700s, they knew how to do it. What happened? Take advantage of compact building design. I really laugh when we really claim we want our yards, and our yard is actually a 5-foot or 4-foot setback, depending as low as the building department will let us go, with a 10-foot backyard, and that's called quality. It's waste of time. And it's waste of time and waste of space. You can actually have compact design that gives you all the opportunities that a traditional single-family residence does. The only thing that we are lacking is design excellence. If you put design excellence, you can do a compact development that looks and behaves exactly like your single-family dwelling. Range of housing opportunities and choices. People complain about neighborhoods deteriorating. You know what happens? In a neighborhood, all the housing choices that you have around you are in the same price range. If you move up, what do? You sell your house, you buy a house in a fancier neighborhood, and you move away. The neighborhood stays the same. There is no visual thing. Hey, Joe here did much better. Look how well he's doing. There is nothing to strive for. Also, because the neighborhoods become so specialized on income levels, and they are specialized also based on proximity to good schools, you have neighborhoods that are family only. They have neighborhoods that you have elder people only. And it does not make sense. You want the extended family. You want your grandparents living next to the grandchildren. You know, Hillary Clinton was saying it takes a village. It truly takes a village, but it takes a family to make a village. And to make a family, you have to have all the generations. Poverty is not a four-letter word. We create the four-letter word. And the only way that we can get ourselves out of there is create mixed income neighborhoods that people actually can see if they play by the book and they work hard, that they can achieve something. Then you give them a choice, you give them a target, and they'll follow it. Create walkable neighborhoods. That's our typical streets, right? And in case you didn't see, that's the pedestrian. Safe, right? Who wants to cross that street, you know, a couple of times a day? It's like playing Russian roulette here, trying to, you know, to go from one side of the street to the other. Variety of transportation choices. There is no panacea in transportation. Depending the density of your neighborhood, depending the people might like the bus, people might like rail, people might want a heavy rail, people might want the bicycle, some people might want the car. That's okay. But treat the streets in a way that you design them on equal opportunity basis. The pedestrian, the bicycle, and the car have equal rights on the street. If you can create a street with equal rights, then you're successful. Foster distinctive, attractive communities with a strong sense of place. Where in the United States is that? Anywhere, exactly. The sad part about it is most of our developments look exactly like that. You know, the only thing that it changes is the colors. You know, put a red bullseye there and we'll know it's Target or Target. Encourage community and stakeholder collaboration. The neighborhood has to feel secure, that any new development that comes in, it's compatible to the neighborhood. And the only way you can do that is to bring them together on the table and talk about the project. Not force them to a particular solution. Listen to what they say. Come up with a solution that is right for them and it is right for the developer. And in that sense, make development decisions predictable, fair, and cost-effective. Why? Because on the infrastructure side, we pay 25% less for roads, 15% less for utilities, 5% for schools. Smart density versus low density. So we have to gain as a society. From the other hand, the developer has the right to make a profit. Not a crazy profit, but has the right to make a profit. So let them make the profit. Make the process predictable. The worst thing for a developer is when that process gets longer and elongated and you have CEQAs and EIRs and crazy parking discussions. Like, these are useless. Our environmental legislation has basically boiled down to a parking regulation. That's not what we started with. CEQA was not about parking. CEQA was about the air. It was about the soil. It was true environmentalism. Now it's parking regulation. It's a way to keep developments out of our neighborhood. So, smart growth is more transportation choices and less traffic, not against cars and road. Vibrant cities, suburbs, and town, not anti-suburban. Wider variety of housing choices, not against growth. Growth is good. Growth is natural. Nature is growing. If you truly believe in sustainability, the best example for you is nature. You look at nature, nature grows. That's what it does. That's the same way that our society should do. It just should not grow in the crazy rates that we are growing right now. Well-planned growth that improves quality of life. And it's not about telling people where or how to live. LEED and D is also about new urbanism. That's the Charter of New Urbanism. Required reading at the office back then. It's actually a very interesting document. It's a document that brings back the old urban planning values, brings back the ideas that created the London and Paris and Rome and Barcelona, and also not only that, but the ideas that created Philadelphia and Boston and New York back to the discussion. The principle of new urbanism talks about compact, walkable neighborhoods, mixed-use urban form, highly connected street networks, sufficient density, building design that emphasizes human scale. That's very important. That's something that we are losing right now in our cities. The human scale has gone the wayside. New urbanism is not about style, although I have to admit that lots of new urbanists tend to design traditional-looking neighborhoods. The principle of new urbanism is not about style, but it is about scale. Range of housing to serve diverse populations, and important, regional planning. The way that LA is crazy right now is because we are planning Los Angeles one block. Actually, we would be lucky if we were designing Los Angeles one block at a time. We are designing Los Angeles one project at a time. A big, and I can spend hours on that, but a big part of the whole new urbanism is the idea of the smart transit. And it's sort of, the basis is in biology, and you have the basic blocks of nature, and as you move in nature from the water to the mountain, the same basic blocks just change the way they appear, but they are still remain the same blocks. Same thing with urbanism. You take the same blocks of urbanism, and you treat them differently if you are in a preserve area than you are in the urban core. This is a little joke here. That's the current transect, right? So you have your farmland, ranchettes, suburban, 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 suburban. Important part for new urbanism, there are three parts. It's the region, it's the neighborhood, and then it's the block, the street, and the building. This is the building blocks of the whole theory. So you start from a regional idea, and then you narrow it down to your neighborhood. So these ideas came together, and actually back in 2002 in Miami Beach, that's where the first discussion happened to get the idea of LEED and D going. So the Congress for New Urbanism, NRDC, and USGBC got together and decided, you know what, we need to have a rating system that addresses urban planning, addresses urban development. The goal is to reduce urban sprawl, strengthen the neighborhood patterns, encourage healthy living, you protect the threatened species, you increase transportation choice and decrease automobile dependence, but it's not meant to replace zoning codes. It's a national standard or international standard, but that does not replace zoning codes. That's the way it is, right? And that's in Arlington, Virginia. I could tell you that it could be anywhere I want. You're still going to believe me. That's the way it can be, and I think we prefer to be. Benefits of LEED and D: healthier communities, happier citizens, cleaner environment, more robust economy. Health and community. If you get the people out of the cars and they start walking and biking, they might burn a calorie here and then, not bad. You can have your farmer market and bring your local growers close to your neighborhood so you support local economies. That's, again, a really good thing. And from studies, actually, developments that have been built under the new urbanist principles and the LEED for neighborhood development principles and the smart growth principles actually sell more than traditional sprawl developments. The environment. You know, if we stop, you know, taking 3.2 million acres a year, we actually will have some open space left for our grandchildren. The rating system, it's a little bit different than the rest of the LEED rating systems. There are only 3 categories: smart location and linkage, neighborhood pattern and design, and green infrastructure and buildings. You probably are familiar with the points in the rating system, 40, 50, 60, and 80. That's standard for any LEED rating system. How does it translate? The smart location and linkage category is all about smart growth. The neighborhood pattern and design, it's all about new urbanism. And the green infrastructure and buildings, it's about green buildings. And by the way, did you know that there is more built environment outside the 4 waterproof walls of buildings in total? Our roads, our sidewalks, our telephone poles, sewer, water lines, you name it, create more built environment than the actual buildings. Smart location and linkage. It's all about building this and keeping that open. They measure location, proximity to existing developments, which is crucial, proximity to goods and services, and proximity to existing infrastructure. One of the biggest Ponzi schemes ever devised is actually the suburban development. A city, a developer goes to the city and says, you know what, you have all this land here and you barely have any tax base. Let me build a suburban development and you'll get all these taxes. Great idea, go ahead. They give him the permits, you know, they get some money in the beginning, plan check fees and all this stuff, and the projects start being built. Suddenly I'm like, oh, we need to build a road to access that particular how going to spend money to build the road? You know, the taxes have not come in. He's not even finished yet. Well, what if we allow another one to come in? Okay, the other one comes in, they pay for the road, but the other one now needs more road. And bring another one, and another one. And suddenly, you know what? I need a school, I need a police station, I need a fire station, I need a hospital. I run out of land. What do I do now? Well, you are in the bankrupt state that we are right now. That's exactly what happens. Your location should be enhanced. You preserve the sensitive lands. You locate jobs near housing, and you provide bicycle amenities. LA is a very good example of that. We build willy-nilly, and then back in the 20s and 30s, things were started flooding. And what did we do as a solution? We took the LA River and we put it on a concrete channel. And now has become a major pollution source for the ocean. So it took created the problem, took the problem from near us, dumped it to the channel, and sent it to the ocean. What we didn't realize is that the ocean would take the problem and send it back to us. And now we're trying to fix it. Neighborhood pattern and design talks about compact, complete, and connected. You cannot have a walkable neighborhood that is a spread out neighborhood. And that's where the fallacy of this whole parking regulations comes in. If I go to any city block, sit in the corner, and I would look, there is a gas station, there is a coffee place, there is a 7-Eleven, and might be a restaurant. There is a parking spot in every single of these locations waiting for my car. Because there is a parking spot waiting for my car, what happens is that we have to have a little building, big parking lot, little building, big parking lot. So by design, we're stretching our cities as far as possible. Well, who wants to walk in that city? Who wants to go from the 7-Eleven to the coffee shop or, and have to go through 1.5 urban blocks to do that and walk next to a parking? You're not going to do that. You get in your car because you have a parking spot waiting for you over there. Well, what that creates? Traffic. So we encourage parking to reduce traffic, but in reality, availability of parking creates more traffic. Go to Santa Monica. Go to old Pasadena. They have the Park One concept there. People are out there walking. Caruso, smart developer. He saw that idea. He built the Grove. He built the Americana. What did he do? He did a Park One's development. Gave you a parking structure, you park your car, and then you walk all around his shops. But you go to Burbank and you go to that Empire shopping mall. Has any one of you been there? If you haven't, please do, because it's an excellent example of what not to do. And you have to learn from mistakes as well as learn from the good. Even if you wanted to walk, you cannot walk. Unless you have a death wish. Green infrastructure and buildings. And that's things that we learned out of the LEED rating systems. We can reduce our energy use up to 50%. We can reduce our CO2 emissions up to 40%. Water use, 40%. And solid waste down to 70%. We also can use the green infrastructure as neighborhood amenities. Ideas like, your school, if you build a library and a field for the school, maybe after 2:30 that the school is closed, you allow the neighborhood to come in and enjoy it, so you don't have to build an additional park and an additional library. Sort of makes sense, but for some reason, insurance companies have gotten in between and don't allow us to do that, which is insane. Who should care? All of you. All of you should care about LEED for neighborhood development. How different is it from the other rating systems? Their primary focus is on location and land use. It looks beyond individual buildings and, of course, has different credit categories. It has a different certification process also. You register, you go through a prerequisite review. Basically, one of the prerequisites of LEED for neighborhood development is that your site is not part of the problem. You have been silly if we would allow a project that, it was a total greenfield to be registered under the rating system. So what USGBC does is that, since we know it's a long process, before you actually get into the process, give us the site, we'll review it, we'll tell you if it meets the prerequisite. Simple. And then you have 3 stages. Conditionally approved plan, that's for projects that have not gone through approval yet. So if you are trying to convince the city that indeed you are doing a good job, that is a great tool for a developer. Then, if your plan has been approved by the city, you have stage 2, the pre-certified plan. And then finally, when you build it, it's stage 3, the certified neighborhood development. What projects? Residential, commercial, mixed use, whole portions of or multiple neighborhoods, new or redevelopment, and appropriate sites in urban, suburban, and village areas. So, LEED and D, you use it as basis for financial incentives for projects. You use it as a basis for structural incentives for projects. You evaluate your own zoning, regulations, and master plans, and you are familiar with the rating system. Don't expect it to replace plans, zoning, or planning itself. Don't expect it to replace environmental regulations. And definitely don't expect to be able to certify your town, city, or comp plan. It's not designed for that. I want to leave you with a cute little video that I just ran. It's actually through CNU.
Yo! Yo.
Battle physically, conquer mentally.
So John Paget, he was actually a student that put that together for one of the CNU, the Congress for New Urbanism. But I think it's such a wonderful, 2-minute, summary of what it's all about. You can change the new urbanism part to LEED for neighborhood development part or whatever else you want. But the idea is there, is that we don't say anyone, don't grow. We don't say to anyone, don't develop. We don't say to anyone, don't have a choice. What we're saying is that stop prioritizing towards the automobile, stop prioritizing towards silly ways. We can have everything that we want, exactly the lifestyle that we want, but do it in a smart way. So,